Hi, I am Rudy Begas, and in this video I will explain to you systemic consensing, a motivating way to make sustainable group decisions. Have you ever decided as a group by majority voting? Then you know there are pros and cons, winners and losers, diametrically opposed. Let's take a look at the example of 4 friends who want to throw a party. Everyone has their own preference for catering. Tom likes the mobile snack bar in front of the door. Karen swears by the mobile pizza oven. Petra opts for the sushi food truck. And George, he wants a grill master in the garden. This way you can encounter a stalemate without a clear majority. Often in those cases someone is brought in to solve the issue. In this case, Frank has absolute power. Whatever he decides will happen for the whole group. And so, Sushi won this with 40% in favor and 60% against. With majority voting, some pro votes are often votes against an even worse alternative. That is how Trump and Macron got elected. So you're either a winner or a loser, it measures approval or disapproval, and one person can only cast one vote. And this is how power play comes in. Another decision system is consensus, where everyone has to agree. This can take a very long time. And in order to convince people, concessions often diminishes the quality of the proposal. And the result can be the dictatorship of the minority. A third common system is the veto right, where the boss decides. In this system there is no equality. And this can have a demotivating effect on people. It also stops initiatives and creativity. Now, systemic consensing is all about reversing negativity. So, if we reverse all these disadvantages, we obtain the advantages of systemic consensing, another sustainable, motivating and connecting way to make supported group decisions, invented by Erich Wiesocznik and Siegfried Schrotta. A typical example of the strength of systemic consensing is the rotational system at a German university. There were too many exchange students and the current system of teaching in German was unable to cope with this influx. There were 7 proposals for a new rotation system. Proposal number 3 was elected as the winner by majority voting. Immediately after implementation, the majority of the professors went on strike. To get out of the deadlock, Erich Wiesocznik's help was called in and the vote was redone via consensing, systemic consensing. The resistance of each proposal was weighed in this way, and this showed that Proposal 3 simultaneously evoked the most resistance. In the end, everyone was satisfied with Proposal 6 that evoked the least resistance, and therefore had the most acceptance. To see how this actually works, we first have to look at Western thinking, where the focus is often on the negative. For example, at home. You did some shopping and brought back 26 items, but you forgot one. Do you receive appreciation? You've emptied the dishwasher, ironed the shirts and cleaned up, but the bin isn't out yet. Where does the attention go to? What percentage of the news in the media is positive? And also at work we look at the negative. Job seekers can perfectly state what they don't want in a job. It's far more difficult for them to express what they do want. You managed 14 tasks well in your job and one was less successful. What are you being held accountable for? What remains after an evaluation or performance interview? So Western thinking often focuses on the negative. Many people think avoidance-oriented and all the rest is considered normal. This makes it more difficult for people to estimate their appreciation. That gives an impure measurement. Because the focus is often on the negative, people can more accurately weigh their resistance. For example, as a team-building activity, a team member proposes to organize an improvisation workshop. How much resistance would you have? From 0 to 10. 0 being a full agreement and 10 being an absolute resistance. Now, how do you measure that concretely? So, a participant in the group decision may give a maximum resistance of 10. If you multiply the number of participants by 10, you get the maximum group resistance. For example, with 8 participants, the maximum group resistance is 80. The participants indicate their resistance to a certain proposal, and that is, for example, 40%, the red bar. What remains within the maximum group resistance, the green bar, is the group appreciation for this same proposition. In this case, this proposition is supported for 60%, the appreciation or acceptance level. Systemic consensing is similar to how real friends work things out. For example, if somebody really doesn't want to go to a particular restaurant because he received bad service, then that option is removed from the proposals list and the friends choose from the remaining options. To make this work, it's important that the group is allowed and willing to decide in this way, and also a zero option is added to the list of proposals, the passive solution. For example, everything remains unchanged. Everybody evaluates each proposal as well as the passive solution, 0 being no resistance and 10 being an absolute no-go, and the proposal with the least group resistance has the most appreciation. If we go back to the example of the organizer of the party, the passive solution chosen here is that the friends themselves prepare spaghetti. Let's fill in the individual preferences with a 0. And Tom has a slight resistance to pizza. He already ate it this week. He dislikes sushi because he prefers warm food. Barbecue is not his thing at all, as is bolognese sauce. Bah. Karen, she gets burps from chips. She likes pizza but not rice. Barbecue is a possibility, but she doesn't like to cook herself. Petra had fried yesterday. She can live with pizza, but sushi is her absolute favorite. Barbecue is also okay, however, she doesn't like cooking herself at a party. And George doesn't find fries are festive enough. Pizza is still okay. Sushi is too. He absolutely adores barbecue. And he already had spaghetti twice this week. So, if we add up the resistances, then pizza comes out as the solution with the least group resistance and therefore the most appreciation. Advantages. Everyone is involved and motivated. The group decision will be more supported. Decision-making is based on feeling. Systemic consensing is conflict avoidant. Instead of criticizing proposals of others, systemic consensing stimulates participants to add constructive proposals themselves. You get an insight into personal resistances. Everyone is equal in this system. And systemic consensing stimulates initiative and creativity. There are 2 variants. Fast consensing, for daily decisions, quick and simple. It works with a show of hands. 2 hands in the air indicates a heavy resistance. 1 hand in the air is a light resistance. 1 hand on the heart is agreement. And if the group can't figure it out this way, you can still choose to continue the decision-making process with enhanced consensing, the second variant. Enhanced consensing is for more important decisions with a greater impact. Through empathic listening from non-violent communication, the need behind the resistance becomes clear. At least the employees feel they are being listened to. And objectives now have a positive function. Through the wisdom of the resistance, proposals can be adjusted, if desired, based on the underlying needs. So thanks to the resistance, the quality of the proposals is therefore improved. Now let's apply this to the example of organizing the party. When we question Tom's resistance, we hear that he prefers to eat vegan. This allows us to adjust the proposal and resume the weighing. Now we get a proposal with an even greater appreciation. For the moderator of decisions via systemic consensus, there are some typical pitfalls to avoid, as well as practical tips from our years of experience that we are willing to share in our training. I hope to see you there.